This is, please be seated. This is one of the greatest honors of my life. I will tell you, this is one of the greatest moments in my business life. And I've had a lot of great moments. Nothing's going to top this one. We're going to introduce to you in a minute someone that Shannon and I have loved for the last 17 years of our life. Shannon, why don't you just share a little bit about those 17 years? And
I was thinking about it before I came up here, and I thought, honestly, if it wasn't who he is, if he was your next door neighbor, if he was someone at your church, if he was someone in the neighborhood, you guys could not ask for a nicer person. And that's what's so amazing to me, is with all his status and worldwide, not just here in America, not just karate, but everywhere, he is a legend, and he is kind, and his wife, I can't even find the words. Sorry, I can't find the words. She is, you guys, she's an angel. That's what she is. She is a beautiful woman on the outside, but she's also almost more beautiful on the inside. And I'm sorry, I'm emotional. I haven't seen her in a while, so that's why I'm, well, there's a couple of reasons, but anyway, we won't go into that. So she is a doll, and we would like to welcome our dear friends and now associates who are madly in love with Max as much as we are, and part of our family, Chuck and Gena. Okay.
I love the orange t-shirts.
Have a seat, guys.
You don't sit on this other side?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Oh my gosh.
We always do this. We've been friends forever. And we just cry because we love each other so much.
we've been through as friends, we've been through some of the best of times and some of the worst of times. Mm-hmm. And the Norrises have always been there. We've tried to always be there for them. Gena had an incredible pregnancy with twins. And God had brought a man into our life as a neighbor who happened to be the world's #1 fetal babysitter, fetal specialist. And he had moved to California. And I just thought, you know what, for all the trouble that they're going through, maybe they should meet with him. And they met with him. And Chuck, tell what happened once you met with Dr. DeVore.
Well, Gena, we'd already picked the hospital and the doctor and everything in Dallas because she wanted to have her babies born in Texas. And
Texas baby.
And then when Steve told me about Dr. DeVore and how he had saved their baby's life, and Gena had what they call hyperstimulation. So is when she swelled up to be 9 months and 2 weeks of pregnancy. So she's having some severe problems. And it's like the Lord laid on me and said, you need to go to Los Angeles and be near Dr. DeVore. So I said, honey.
I was 20 weeks pregnant.
Yeah, she's 20 weeks pregnant. And so I said, honey, we're going back to our home in L.A. She starts bawling. No, I want to stay here.
She's a Texas gal.
I know. So I said, no, something tells me we need to be there. So she agreed, and we went back to L.A., and she started seeing Dr. DeVore. He wasn't her OBGYN, but he was just a specialist keeping an eye on her. And during that pregnancy, he saved her life 2 times.
And the babies.
Yeah.
And the babies.
Yeah, and the babies.
And the babies. And the babies.
Yeah, she went through preterm labor, and she was feeling bad, so she went to see her doctor, and they ran scans and all that, and they said, we don't see anything wrong. So Gena decided to go see Dr. DeVore. And through his expertise, he says, you're going into preterm labor. Get to the hospital right now.
That was at 23 weeks.
At 23 weeks.
And that was the beginning of the miracles and his involvement in his life.
But when she did, unfortunately, I was in Washington, D.C. at George W. Bush's first thing with all the people. Yeah, the inauguration. And anyway, I'm sitting up on the podium.
No, let me tell this part.
Okay.
So I call our security officer and I said, got a little problem, going into the hospital, got to have surgery in the morning. Where's my husband? Oh, he's on the dais with the president. I'm like, oh, don't tell him right now. Wait till he gets.
He'll go into labor.
Of course, he comes up and tells me my wife's in the hospital. So I just get up and walk off the stage. And,
but everything turned out fine.
But it all turned out all right.
Everything turned out fine.
And the thing is, then the second time, it was...
I was 32 weeks pregnant and had gone through many things. The story's too long to tell all of you today, but at the end of the 32 weeks, at 31 weeks, I had 8 days of excruciating side pain, and I was doubled over and thinking, man, I must be a real wimp. Carrying twins is really hard, and I just need to suck it up and go on. And so I'd been to the hospital, and all these doctors are looking at me saying, oh, maybe it's her appendix, or it's just a pinched nerve, or it's a ligament, or whatever. And when I went and saw Dr. DeVore, he had just gotten the new 4-dimensional ultrasound. And
Only one in California, by the way, at the time.
And he'd just gotten it. And he said, Gena, when you come in, I'd like to spend the lunch hour with you to spend a little bit more time. And he said, I'd like you to tell me about this side pain that you'd been having. Well, it was interesting because the day that I had that appointment with him, the pain had stopped. The pain had literally stopped, and I thought, and it was just kind of one of those feelings that you get as a mother. And I'm thinking the babies were still, they weren't moving that morning. And I thought, this is really odd. And my old cesarean scar looked a little bit funny, and anyway. And the night before, when I went to sleep, I said to Carlos, I said, you know what? That's his real name.
Carlos, by the way.
I'm not married to 2 men.
Carlos!
Yeah. She's not married to 2 guys. Just 2 names.
And so I said to him before I went to sleep, I said, you know what, honey? I said, there's just a couple things I need to say before we go to sleep. I said, I'm feeling a little bit frightened tonight. And I said, I want you to know how much I love you and to please never stop loving Jesus. I went to And when we got up that next morning, and I'm like, I'm tired of all this. I'm ready for this just to be over. And the babies were still, and I get in there, and so Dr. DeVore, he lays me down, and he takes that 4D wand and checks me out really good, and all of a sudden, and he's real stoic. He gets real quiet, and he puts the wand down, and he says, I need to show you something. I'm like, okay. So he takes the wand, and he goes all the way around the outside of the uterus. I know that's probably not a word I should say, but that's what it was. And he said, see right down here where it's getting so thin? He goes, it looks like it's as thin as a piece of paper. He said, you're about to rupture. He said, you need to get to the hospital right now, and the babies have to be born right now. I'm like, okay. I said, they're not ready, but we're going. So we get to the hospital. They had, the OR was already prepped, and there was a beautiful woman in there. I never saw her again. It was just she and I. And she said, I know that you're frightened. And she said, can I pray with you? I said, oh, please, let's pray. And she prayed, the Lord is my shepherd. And she went through the whole thing. And I felt such a peace. And probably within, it seemed like just a few minutes, Dakota and Danny Lee were born, and he's 1 minute older, thank goodness, because she had him convinced that she was the oldest. But anyway, that day, Dr. DeVore called the manufacturer, that 4-dimensional ultrasound. He said, I want you to know that your machine saved 3 lives today. Wow. So it was pretty amazing. One of the things about that story that is so phenomenal, because truly you could feel God's presence through the whole pregnancy, and it wasn't anything that I did. My life was, I couldn't control anything. It was all in God's hands, and I'm sure a lot of you have experienced those moments when it's completely out of your control. But that morning when the babies didn't move, because Dakota was down low where the rupture was about to take place, and Danny was always the active one of the two. God's plan is always so perfect that he even knew where to place them inside of me. Danny's up here, Dakota's down here, he's more of the quiet one, and it was like that morning, God just said, shh, don't move. And then here they are, so great story.
Now, I wanted to share that story because we are a Max family. It's not just about the business, and all of you know that. It's about the people you reach out and touch. And they may come into your lives through Max, but once they're in your life, we all know they're in your life to stay. And you never know what you're going to be called on to do. You never know how you're going to be used. When we agreed to do the Total Gym 17 years ago, I didn't realize that these two, Shannon and I, went through a situation in a period of time, and they never stopped praying for us. And they were always there when I called or Shannon called. But we didn't know that. We just, I'm sure when we first met, Chuck just thought this is a business relationship, but it's turned out to be a whole lot more. And he has a charity we'll tell you about another time, but our company is very excited about making that one of our designated charities. In fact, our primary designated charity. It's called Kickstart, and it works with inner city children. And so far, it's an in-school program. Over 70,000 kids have gone through this program instead of getting into the gangs in the inner cities of Texas. And it's not only saved their lives, it's transformed their lives to the point to where one was even given a full scholarship. His brother was killed in a gang at 16, and that gave him automatic entrance into the gang. He's now a graduate of Massachusetts Institute of Technology because of this program. But now go ahead.
Let's hear your story about Max and
Why Max?
how slowly we got you to take it.
Well, we were
Well, they brought Dr. Keller in
2006.
2006, and we met him, and when they were starting to build the program, that's Max, and so we started taking it, and
one thing about us, when we start something and we see that it works, or we like it, or we know that it's going to make an impact or somehow help somebody, we don't just keep it to ourselves. We call and say, oh, could you send some to so-and-so, and including Mike Huckabee, right?
Yeah, when we campaigned for Mike Huckabee when he's running for president, he was getting really tired, so we started feeding him Celgevity and all that, and it really pepped him up. It really got him going.
It was his secret weapon.
Yeah, he called it his secret weapon. But the thing is, though, before I jump on board with something, I have to be 1,000% sold. And I said, Steve, I need more time, with this here. I need to take it longer to see just what the end results of this will be. And so I said, give me a year, and then I can let you know one way or the other.
Well, they came to the ranch last year, and of course the product has been evolving and growing, and new product line, and they came out and they started just sharing with us, because they're traveling all over the world, and they're just telling us about places that just miracles are happening, story after story. And Steve is the best one to share stories, but when my girlfriend starts telling me stories, I'm like, okay, Shannon, you've got my attention. So she's just sharing the miracles that are taking place, and we saw lives that were being transformed, and we're thinking, okay, there is so much more to this. And we got started taking the Celgevity and the Max 1, which leads us to Max ATP, because our son is a gymnast, a phenomenal gymnast.
And they just made their black belts 2 months ago, our twins.
Oh.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
So Dakota not only was on the Total Gym to give him an edge with his competition, Steve was sharing the benefits of Max ATP, and I was a little bit leery at first, but Dakota drank it in his water, and he, at state, he took 3 bronze medals at state in gymnastics. It gave him that sustained energy that he needed to be able to finish his competition.
Wow.
And also for their black belt test, too.
Yeah, and for their black belt
Good for them.
Now, as long as we're talking about energy,
Because, when they tested for their black belt, it's a very...
It's
because
2 hours.
For your first degree black belt, that's the toughest test you'll ever have in all your promotions for black belt. It's your first one. And they had to get up there and perform for 2 hours.
wow.
That's a real grind. And that did help. That really helped Dakota and Danny to get through that 2-hour.
Well, you've been very outspoken. In fact, I read a piece in WND Daily. In fact, recently Drudge Report said Chuck Norris takes on energy drinks, and the high caffeinated, high sugar, and high caffeinated energy drinks. Talk about those versus
And I heard back
ATP.
from the owners of those drinks too. How can you do that, Chuck? I says, because I don't believe in them.
Right. Yeah, he wants you to retract that statement.
Yeah. The thing is, I just say how I feel. And I write every week, and I just kind of pour my heart out on situations that bother me or I feel need to be exploited. And
But there is a huge difference between the Max products and not a sports energy, just an energy drink. And how can you get behind something that you know in your heart is not good for you?
Right.
So we're like, no, he'd been given several offers to even come up with his own energy drink, and we're just like, it cannot compare to Max. There's no way.
Now, Carlos, now that it's out, it took you 18 years. You were in the Total Gym using it before you endorsed it. And we're just so grateful that you guys are spokespersons. But I know, as loving as they are, in fact, I got a call right after we left their ranch. We were there for the Labor Day weekend a year ago. And their attorney calls me, Mike Forshee, who I've known for years. And he said, Steve, Chuck and Gena want to represent Max, but we need to do some due diligence. Well, he lost me at, they want to represent Max. I didn't hear anything else after that. And I said, well, we're a wide open company. We're transparent. I've got the world's best executive team in my mind. And so we'll just share everything with you. And he said, well, it's not me, because you see, we've got a few. Number one, we want to really see how sound your company is. We already know about the product, Steve. They're not even questioning that. All they needed to hear is from Shannon. What about me?
What?
I said, what about me? Mike
What do
didn't.
you mean they needed to hear from
He said all they needed to know the products were terrific is to hear from
yeah.
Shannon.
I get it.
Anyway, they know Steve's a salesman. And but he said, but we really want to make sure, he's good. If he does this, he's giving a reputation takes a lifetime to
It
build.
does. And if you
And it
lose
ta-
that reputation, you can't buy it
Yeah,
back.
you can't buy it back once you've abused it. So that's why you haven't seen him all over TV hawking a lot of things. And but anyway, so he said, we've got a due diligence team, and it's headed by a guy that understands network marketing and so on. And he said his name is Reg Cochran. And they made Reg in charge of due diligence. They put their accounting team on it. They put their legal team on it, and Reg headed up. So I want to invite Reg out right
Reggie!
now, who is working their position.
Hello.
Here.
Best business partner in the world.
Oh,
Hi,
thank
buddy.
you.
As it turned out, part of their compensation plan
He's so funny.
when Reg saw what the compensation plan was really like, he said, we want to be a part of that. So they actually have a team where they're going to movie stars and sports figures and so on to bring them into Max as well. But Reg, why don't we start with the due diligence part?
Sure. I've been in the network marketing industry for over 20 years, and I always tell someone that's new to the industry, look, there's no such thing as a perfect product. There's no such thing as a perfect company. There's definitely no such thing as a perfect upline. But with Max International and the team you've got in the home office and all of y'all in the field, this is as close to perfect as I've ever found in the past 20 years.
Atta baby.
Thank you, Reg.
Thank you.
Now you guys, what I love about the Norrises and the incredible fit is Gena and Carlos have always been very health conscious. We go to their house, and Gena would offer me some
Oh my gosh.
wonderful iced tea or coffee, and I'd say, "Where's the sugar?" And she'd look at me like I had just said a 4-letter word. Well,
They're like, can we borrow your car?
Yeah, we need to go to Walmart real quick.
yeah, the stevia is there. Stevia, that's my name. Anyway? But anyway, they've always been health conscious. They fit in that they want their kids to grow up with healthy bodies. That's really important to them. With their values. And I can say, when you're looking for values, I aspire to be like my sweet wife.
It's true.
And
Very true.
I will tell you that when she says Gena is an angel, that's not an understatement. The text messages and the prayers and everything that have come through the years in Shannon's deepest hour of needs, Gena's always been there. And it's amazing. And Chuck's not bad either. Chuck's my buddy.
No, I just want to say one thing. These people, we go to their house and are with their kids. Yes, Mrs. Shannon. Yes, Mr. Steve. They are so stinking polite. I'm like, okay, when did I forget to teach my kids manners? It's like they are this, and my kids just watch them like they're kind of like little robots. Mrs. Shannon, and Mr. Steve, and Miss Hallie. It's like, oh my gosh, they are so cute.
They want to earn their black belt.
Oh, she would have been there if we'd been invited.
I know. No, but absolute angels, and I know it's because of their parents.
Yes.
So
and,
just sweet, sweet children.
I knew Chuck before he married Gena. They got married in 98.
98.
No, 98.
We started dating.
We were there at their wedding. They started dating at 97.
When Total Gym started.
And Chuck, if you knew his mom, how old is Wilma?
92.
I love that name.
92.
And going
little,
strong.
Little Wilma, she's about this high. She's tiny. And she raised 3 boys.
Yeah.
One of them was Chuck Norris. And Wilma loves the Lord more than anything.
On her knees every night.
And Chuck had kind of strayed. And Gena, when I first met her, the first thing she talked about, thank you, Shannon. Anything else?
No, you're good. Okay. You got a little. Sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I can't. I'm ADD. So, Wilma, Chuck.
Wilma.
So Gena, the first thing she told me about, she said, Carlos has come back to the Lord.
I love that man.
And talk is easy. It's a little different to live it. But I saw this wonderful man who was a real hero to me, not for the movie roles, But honestly, he became a hero the first time I went to Kickstart and saw the Kickstart kids and heard their testimonies of their transformed lives. And but I got to watch this sweet marriage come together in a God-centered home, kids that know the Lord, and their whole life, pretty much since then, they've been a home-based business people. Tell us what you like about home-based businesses, either one of you.
Well, the thing is, our company, Top Kick Productions is a home-based. Our foundation, Kickstart Kids, is a home-based company. And,
Our kids are homeschooled.
And we homeschool our children. And, it just...
It allows us to be able to... Being a home-based business allows us to be able to lay that foundation in Dakota and Danny Lee's life. And we both have grown children. We don't say they're yours or mine, they're ours, our kids. But having Dakota and Danny later in life, we knew that we wanted to be there for them. And so the opportunity with Max International goes along with the other businesses that we have, that we can do it from home. We can stop, and if Dakota and Danny need to go to gymnastics, hop in the car and get to take them, or travel, or whatever it is. It works out beautifully to be able to work from home because it gives you more freedom. A whole lot more freedom.
And I got to explain about my faith thing here. Steve brought it up.
Good.
Being in the film business, a lot of times you do drift from your faith. So, because you think that you've got it all. You got fame, money, and all this stuff here. And when you do, sometimes you leave the Lord out of the picture. And that's what I did. I was single for 18 years, and all I thought was film. And my best friend was in Dallas staying with me, and he says, they all still call me Chuck. Anyway, he says, Chuck, he says, you're really miserable. I said, yeah, Larry. I said, I really am. I don't know why.
That's 1995.
I don't know why I feel so miserable all the time, and why I'm so angry and on the set, And he said, I really think you need a soulmate. He said, and I know this woman, really nice woman that I'd like for you to meet. So I kind of shoved it. I said, oh, okay, and I just kind of forgot about it. And one night, I'm at this sushi bar in Dallas with my entourage. I always had an entourage with me. And we're sitting there, and I had a date with me.
Nose to nose.
Anyway, Larry brings Gena in to the sushi bar, unbeknownst to me. So anyway, I'm talking to my date. And so
you guys looked really cute together. You did. You had your little baseball hats on.
But anyway, so Larry starts introducing Gena to. There's like 14 people at the table. Well, I'm still talking to my date and not paying any attention. And finally, he says, Carlos, he says, I want you to meet Gena. So I turn around and I look and I go, oh my gosh. Golly Moses, Well, my date gets mad and gets up and walks out. So anyway, Gena had come to Dallas because she was modeling at that time, and she was going to model wedding dresses in Dallas. So
wedding gowns.
Huh?
Wedding gowns.
And wedding gowns. Is that what I say? Wedding.
It's okay.
Wedding gowns. And what did I say? I didn't
dresses.
Say, dresses. Wedding gowns. Anyway, so I said, well, I want to come. Can I come down and watch you model? She said, okay. So I come down there with my entourage.
Oh.
So I'm sitting there.
So embarrassed.
Watching her go down the ramp, with each one with a wedding dress, and. Finally, she has one with a long train on it, and she comes around this corner, starts walking down, and a
potted plant.
A potted plant falls on the train. Now she's dragging this
I
potted
was
plant.
mortified. I was mortified.
And I can't take my eyes off of it. I'm following that potted plant all the way down. And Gena, of course, she's having a heart attack. And after it's over, I invited her to lunch. And I said, I was thinking about buying that potted plant. Anyway, I called my mom, later that evening. And so I told her about Gena, and about her modeling and these wedding dresses or gowns. And she says, "Oh, does that give you any ideas?" I said, "No, Mom, I'm never getting married." But that was famous last words.
Yeah. 1997.
And then in 1997, I knelt on my knee and proposed to her. And she says, "Well, when do you want to get married?" And I'm right in the middle of the series. I says, "Well, only time I've got off is Thanksgiving, which is what, 4 weeks from then?"
About close, 4 or 5
Yes,
weeks.
I said, "The only time I have is Thanksgiving. That's 4 weeks from now. Can you get it done then?"
Oh my God.
I gave Shannon 4 weeks and 1 day.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyway,
Very much alike.
as fate would have it, she does it. Now I'm playing basketball with my son, and I do a jump up hook and I twist my back.
Oh.
Now I can hardly move now, and so when she brings the doctor over and he gives me some shots in my back, but it still sore as a booger the next day of the wedding.
I said, "You're going down that aisle one way or the other."
Yeah, she says you're going one way or another, even on a gurney if you have to.
Oh, that's funny.
But anyway, thing is, when Gena and I got married, I still wasn't really back in with the Lord at that stage. And so anyway, I'd get up to go to the set, and she'd be reading the Bible when I was leaving. And I says, "What are you doing?" She says, "Oh, I read the Bible every morning." I said, "Oh." And so I left. And one morning I came by, and so I had time, so I sat down and listened to her. And she says, "You want me to read aloud?" And I said, "Yeah." So she started reading from the Bible aloud. And then, so every morning I'd get up early enough to be able to sit down with her and listen to her read the Bible. Then after a while, I said, here, let me read. Mm-hmm. So I took the Bible and I started reading it. Mm-hmm. And it's like the Lord said, "Son, it's time to come back home."
Aww.
That's very sweet. Very sweet. Well, our time is up. Anyway, that's true. God gets all
But
the
I have to tell you, when I was doing Walker, Texas Ranger, I was doing, it was, I really wanted to make it a family show. And then Gena says, "Why don't you do a faith-based episode?" I said, "Okay." So I call up CBS. I said to CBS, I said, "Look, I'd like to do a faith-based episode of Walker." And they said, "Oh, no, we got touched by an angel. We don't need any more faith-based stuff, I said, "Look, let me do one faith-based episode. And if it's not one of our highest-rated shows of the year, I won't ask you again." Mm-hmm. So I did one. The first one's called The Neighborhood. And The Neighborhood was about a little black girl walking home in this ghetto area of Dallas. And two gangs get into a firefight, and she's accidentally shot and taken to the hospital. Mm-hmm. And so my character Walker arrives at the hospital, and the doctor says, "There's nothing we can do. She's bleeding internally, and there's no way for us to stop it." And then, miraculously, she's healed. And the doctors are dumbfounded. And so anyway, we're in there talking to her, and she says, "Yeah, I was on my way to heaven." And an angel stopped me and says, "It's not your time." Says, "You have a job to do." And that's to clean up your neighborhood. So anyway, so now the rest of the story is her in her neighborhood cleaning up the debris and and getting the gangs together. She has a big revival at the end, and the two gangs come together in harmony, and just a real great ending to it. And it was the #1 show of the year for Walker.
Wow. That was good. That was good.
Well, we're almost out of time because we have a few more things to do with them, including the lunch. We're going to bring the power winners up. I think somebody knows that, but before I do, I don't know. I don't run this show. I just show up. I don't even run the show at home. I just show up there.
That is not true. Oh my gosh.
Anyway, guys, we know, right? I mean, come on. And I will tell you, Chuck is a real gentleman. Anytime I say, Chuck, you want to do something? He always says the right thing. Let me ask Gena. As any wise man would do.
Touché.
So, but I just want to close with one more statement or question. I can't even tell you what a dream come true this is, that so many lives physically around the world, what we see with the medical doctors and the miracles we see throughout the world. And many people in third world countries come to Max as their one hope. We have one guy that was making $150 a month, was never even had a dream. In fact, we have a few of them in this audience from the Philippines that never even had a dream because they just wanted food every night for their family. That's it. And making $150, the average Filipino makes $150. They're sent the export. You filmed in the Philippines.
I've done 3 movies in the Philippines,
yeah.
So I've seen it firsthand.
And the main export of the Philippine government is people. They have to leave their families for months and sometimes years at a time. We have one man here named Dedico who got a vision for the Philippines. And now today there are 32,000 Filipinos that are at home supporting themselves because of Max.
That's amazing.
All right, Eddie.
And I just want you to know
That's amazing.
that your commitment to us is not only going to change millions of lives around the world physically for their health, but economically we're providing, and now because of you, to millions and millions more, an option to poverty, an option to hopelessness. And I'm just so grateful. I'll never be able to express it, but I would like to hear from you two. One last question answered. You're in Max for how long?
Forever.
Well, since I'm 73 years old, I got about 40 more years, so.